After overcoming my beginner hell with Dream Journal, and proving to myself that I was ready with the Fairy Princess, I am now currently working on my comic, Son of the Slayer. What started as a small idea, turned amateur novel to unfinished panels of chapter 1s, is now an ongoing comic that I have planned through and through and am making the best of what I can to tell a story and have it finished. Back when I was trapped in that vicious cycle of beginner hell, where I would keep starting over a project because of being insecure and not confident of my skills, this grand vision of mine, a story I've always wanted to tell and create, would not even make it out of the first chapter. Compounding to that, I ignored studying art properly as I subconsciously painted an image of myself as a failure and thought that practicing would be futile, chalked it up to my style, yet became demotivated when my art wasn't as good as the others I compared them to. These unproductive practices and thoughts inhibited my drawing and painting skills. Ignorance, perfectionism, unfair comparison, unrealistic expectations, and self-deprecation was like shooting myself in the foot. All the while, I was coping by being addicted to video games and porn, spending hours of my life on each vice and wondering why I was making no progress. I saw myself break down, especially in the last year of senior high. I began painting digitally less and less, even started this thing called NoFap, and an exercise routine just to feel a sense of progress. Whether I noticed it or not, I was coping again, but at least this time, in a good way. So instead of video games and porn, I turned to spending my time doing crafty hobbies and exercising. Eventually, I stopped digital art almost entirely and focused on traditional pencil and painting and watercolor. And at the beginning, I sucked, but little did I know that in the future, merely practicing these things would boom into something epic. Then I entered college. I realized the futility and gave up. My grand story, my supposed to be magnum opus of a comic, Imaginus Vectis, I had to let go. And for a year, I mainly focused on traditional art like pencil and watercolor, and even dabbled in animation and cosplay. Until in the second year of college, when I was feeling aimless in my practice of art, getting depressed, I decided to make a project. I made the one and only Dream Journal, my first ever completed and published webcomic. It was a weird experience, actually finishing something of my own volition, which made me think of finally going back to doing my epic story, Imaginus Vectis. But assessing my skills, I wasn't so sure that I would be ready to make my epic story just yet, at that time. And so I made the Fairy Princess, went through a journey with that one, and finished it. Then, and only then, did I know I was ready. Finally, the grand story of Imaginus Vectis was back. Understanding my limits, I chose to do the first of the trilogy, Son of the Slayer. With a budget of 3 years, this time, I was prepared. First, I made proper foundation, a script, which took around 2 months of writing. I did it just before school started again in 2021, and in another 2 months, I thumbnailed 350 pages worth of panels, since because of COVID, the internship was only face-to-face 4 days in a row, afternoon only, every 2 weeks, giving me much ample time in the mornings to do thumbnailing as much as I needed to. This was all in the span of my summer and first months of 4th year college while doing internship. Once all that was done, during my birthday that year, alone in my cold dorm room, I penciled the first page, and I knew this was going to be a long journey that until now I remain doing, a bit over halfway finished as of this recording. So, identifying the problem, The lack of discipline, lack of patience, not thinking long term, false perception of others' success, self-deprecation, surrendering to porn and mindless video games. I was a mess. Looking back at my teenage life, it was littered with depression, distractions, and an aimlessness to it. But when I found that goal, that spark, that purpose, Imaginus Vectus, the epic story that I wanted to do, I would keep self-sabotaging, looping back to step one over and over again, because I lacked the crucial discipline and mindset to achieve it. In my younger years, I identified myself as a loser and undeserving of success, love, or camaraderie. That mindset crippled any path to progression. Coupled with my lack of discipline, I would easily surrender to long hours of video games or pornography. It was literally hell, a beginner hell. Eventually, it broke me, but when I began fixing myself, like doing exercise, no FAP, and going back to study the basics of drawing, I learned to be patient and disciplined. Lifting weights, doing push-ups, and even burpees, although I felt like almost dying the first time I did it, taught me to endure pain and keep going. No FAP, which was a great initial first step in curing my porn addiction, taught me to train my mind and seek purposeful and meaningful endeavors, using my time to enjoy the beauty of life, honing my craft, spending time with people, and appreciating the good in this world, not the degenerate parody of it. Studying the basics of drawing taught me the importance of foundation, that building one creates a simple and strong backbone that immensely helps the process of shaping a piece to a desired outcome. All this aided me in my art journey, and ultimately my comic, Son of the Slayer. Understanding and realizing a goal in order to give purpose or meaning in life comes with developing discipline, doing the hard work, especially when you don't feel like it, to see far and not live in regret, to know your worth as you live and breathe, hence you bear value. Once a strong enough goal, purpose, or meaning is set in place, willpower becomes indomitable, and surrender to vices become irrelevant. This was the story I started. I had to develop discipline, humble myself, and learn from my mistakes to be able to endure and eventually end this phase of my journey. I am not done with my comic yet. This first phase of my journey is not yet over, but while I draw breath, this is a major focus of my life. After almost a decade of dealing with my inner struggles, insecurities, and being trapped in a cycle of inadequacy, in a cycle of self-sabotage, I have escaped from it, moving slowly, but over time, I have accomplished works that lifted old childhood burdens, unfinished goals, and unrealized dreams. This journey has all been to finish what I started, to make peace with my childhood self. That is my purpose at the moment. Once I fulfill this, I will be able to move on. So to anyone out there struggling with their artistic goals, projects, crafts, or even passions, I hope you can gain something from my experiences. This journey is not meaningless, for in the end, it is a journey for inner peace, something a lot of people brush aside, yet time and time again proves to be important. With that being said, I hope these experiences help you on your way, and know that when you set yourself out there to do something grand, no one will ever have the right to judge you for not having tried.